gentlemen, welcome to See Chat with your host Odysseus. Well, it's been 16 years. 16 years since the autumn of 1999, when one of the most prestigious, beautifully designed, expertly written, amazingly narrated, and very expensive documentaries of all time was released. 16 years of sequels, spin-offs, faithful followers, and not-so-faithful followers. 16 years of inspired children, arguing paleontology nerds, and parents awkwardly explaining why the Dini Wars were rubbing up against each other. 16 years? Okay, if I keep saying 16 years, I'm gonna start feeling old. Walking with Dinosaurs! It feels weird to try to review an important part of my childhood. Part of me wants to gush about the attention to detail and the multitude of inspiring scenes, but the critic in me, not like that, wants to point out how the CGI is somewhat dated and some definitely outdated scientific facts. So I decided that I would overview this both as a critic, confirming or denouncing the validity of the facts, as well as judging the overall presentation, and as a fan of the series, talking about what I thought of it when it first came out and how it affects me to this day. So without further ado, let's take a look at the first episode of Walking with Dinosaurs, New Blood. We open with... ooh, the memories. Ooh. Okay, I'll be honest, when I sat down to review this, I didn't even write anything down at first. I usually take notes or pause to check something online, but in this case I just sat there for 3 hours just taking it all in. Alright, enough rose-tinted glasses. This opening is pretty interesting, featuring transparent, oversized animals superimposed onto silhouetted backgrounds with alternating color palettes. Along with the excellent score, composed by Benjamin Bartlett, this easily sets the tone for the entire series. Grandiose, ancient, bombastic, and at this point I'm just stalling. Okay, we really open with... the present? Wow, I said that this redefined dinosaur documentaries, but this is ridiculous. It also says something when the very first scene of the series that exhibits evolution has a church in the background. Ooh, the irony! Oh, you could just taste it! Oh. The next scene is pretty straightforward, via time travel, so really it'd be straight backwards, I guess. We're shown various scenes from later episodes illustrating the different time periods we'll visit. We're also told what this is all about.
In Walking with Dinosaurs, we will show you how these magnificent creatures live. How they eat, fight, and reproduce.
Daddy, the show is on!
How they eat, fight, and reproduce.
What? Anyway, we make it to the Triassic, where we get a cameo from a previous review. Sorry. Sadly, Dietodont will not be joining us, but we do get his drooling cousin! Ugh. What's the prehistoric equivalent of a napkin? This is Plateosaurus, an offshoot of Lystrosaurus and one of the largest of its kind. And honestly, I prefer Plateosaurus over Lystrosaurus. The bulkier, rounded dimensions give off a far more ancient vibe, and it might be the change in size, but it looks like Plateosaurus moves slower than Lystrosaurus. But yet, this is still about dinosaurs. And some poor Euparkeria mother must have been shocked to have given birth to some mutated child that would eventually become Coelophysis. Well, shocked until the Coelophysis ate her. What? It's not like they're above such things. Anyway, welcome to Arizona, 220 million years ago. And I've been to Arizona before, and trust me, it doesn't look any different. Actually, there's some pretty good visual storytelling going on for Coelophysis. At the start, you only ever see one Coelophysis, probably the one that ate his mother. And as the episode continues, you see more and more of them show up until there's a huge pack of them. This is actually quite remarkable given the environmental pushback. You see, it was during this time in Earth's history when the climate was shifting to being more warm and temperate. This means that there isn't really going to be any winter, spring, summer, and fall, but more of a wet and dry season. Which might be fitting for a reptile, but it means that there's going to be more competition from other reptiles. And there are 3 different ways that the reptiles of this episode compete with each other. The Plateosaurus do so by their sheer numbers, vegetation, and migration. The Coelophysis by being opportunistic, basically eating anything they can fit in their mouths. But now we get to talk about the third one. Oh yeah. Let's set the scene. A peaceful valley, teeming with hardy bushes and cumbersome Plateosaurus. But something's in the air. Agitation grows in the herd. And rightfully so, as monstrous jaws clamp down on terrified prey. The sights and sounds of panic and fear herald in the largest carnivore on Earth. Let me put it to you straight. Postosuchus is the poster child of walking with dinosaurs. Seriously, if you look up Postosuchus on Google, walking with dinosaurs is gonna come along with it. And if you look up walking with dinosaurs on Google, you're gonna find Postosuchus. All of which is ironic given that it's not even a dinosaur. This land crocodile is not only the first major predator of the documentary, but actually represents the dramatic change walking with dinosaurs has had on the genre. Let me explain. Documentaries have to walk a very fine line based on how it's produced, a line I like to call the production tightrope. Most good documentaries can simply point the camera at various events and let them unfold, allowing the viewer to derive their own opinions and viewpoint. While a bad documentary, or a produced documentary, will orchestrate or alter the events in order to elicit an emotional response and or further the creator's agenda. So a lot of people would dismiss Walking with Dinosaurs because of its high production values and how it tries to visualize something that doesn't exist. That is until you actually stop to examine it. Let's take a look at Postosuchus' story. She starts out as the apex predator, and then we spend some time with her in her natural environment, see what she does when she's not hunting. But the next time we see her, she has a leg injury from hunting Plateosaurus. Leg injuries can be particularly bad for a creature like Postosuchus given that its locomotion doesn't allow for proper healing. It also means that she can't defend her territory, and as the dry season progresses, she eventually loses it. Basically, Postosuchus is the personification of a glass cannon. And from a combination of a lack of food and her wounds, Postosuchus' legs have collapsed, and she is surrounded by ravenous Coelophysis. Her great size, her armored skin, and her tremendous bite cannot save her from the inevitable. She finally passes away, left to be nothing more than a meal to the opportunistic dinosaurs. Ultimately, the show gave us an involving, sympathetic character without using obvious human qualities. Think about it. Everything that has happened to her are all things that can happen in nature. Animals all around the world, past and present, have gone through similar, if not the same predicaments within their short lives. So what others would have dismissed as highly produced fodder for kids would actually redefine how prehistoric creatures are presented with the story of an apex predator's fall from grace. People, there are Hollywood filmmakers that struggle doing the same thing with normal human beings with normal human emotions. And these guys could do it with a puppet and CGI. I would argue that Postosuchus was the best CGI character until Gollum from The Lord of the Rings. Okay, Postosuchus may be the star of the show, but there are other creatures in the episode. Like Cynodont, which should be called Threxodont, but fuck it, I'm nostalgic. A particularly interesting little borrower being one of the first lizards to display fur. Yes, not only is it a missing link between lizards and mammals, but take a closer look at it. A small burrowing creature that has to fend off larger predators and yet survives dire situations? It's Diictodont! Okay, not really. Unlike our gods, Cynodont raise their young from birth and they pair up rather than live in groups. They also have to deal with Coelophysis rather than Gorgonopsids, so yeah, not too much to worry about. Never mind. And rounding out the cast is the small but unique Petethosaurus, who is not only one of the first pterosaurs, but also one of the smallest, with a wingspan of 24 inches, but only weighing as much as a bluebird. So at twice the size and the same weight, while also having the same diet of bugs, Petethosaurus would have outcompeted small birds, and I think you know where I'm going with this. So after an intense dry season and 2 isolated incidents of baby eating,
Cannibalism is common.
again, not above such things. The rain does return, but the only things left to drink it are the Coelophysis. Okay, make a big splash. I didn't forget about you. This is Plateosaurus, a prosauropod, which means that they'll eventually become the fattest? No, that's not quite it. The largest? No. Oversized? No. All the above living creatures of all time. And the episode ends with the beginning of the Age of Dinosaurs. I have to say, this is a pretty solid first episode. It sets up the premise and the tone from the very get-go so that we can focus on the important things. It does right by starting at the very beginning instead of starting with all the marketable dinosaurs at the very get-go. It also helps that it shows off some remnants from the Paleozoic to show what the world was beforehand, and to show just how dinosaurs were able to take over the world from the very start. The only real complaint I can give is that for something that's supposed to be walking with dinosaurs, you're mostly spending your time with synaspids than anything else. Granted, that was probably unavoidable, and we'll be spending the rest of our time with dinosaurs, but I still gotta bring it up. Postosuchus is just awesome in every conceivable way. Great intro, great outro, great puppet work, just great in every way. Speaking of the animatronics, I'm surprised by how many there were. There isn't a scene that goes by without one, and that's really awesome. Especially with dinosaur documentaries now, where it's almost always CGI. In conclusion, great start to the series, and many more to come. I would say that you should check this out, but you probably have if you're watching this video, so go watch it again, I guess. See you next time for Time of the Titans.